Who said that members of the same species are not alike? So the answer is Darwin. The answer is Darwin. A researcher divides the population into PG graduates and 10 plus, that is PU students, and using the random digit table, he selects some of them from each. This is technically called stratified random sampling. So a researcher, what he'll do, he will divide the population into PG graduates, that is undergraduates, or it may be PG graduates and PU students, and using that random digit table. Okay. So he selects some of them from each. This is technically called stratified random sampling. A researcher divides his population into certain groups and fixes the size of the sample from each group. It is called quota sample. Field study is related to real life situations. Field study is related to what? Real life situations. Attributes of objects, events, or things which can be measured or called, it is a variables. An example of scientific knowledge is, that is, laboratory and field experiments. Example of scientific knowledge is laboratory and field experiments. Generalized conclusion on the basis of sample is technically known as statistical inference of external validity of the research. So generalized conclusion on the basis of sample only, that is called as what? That is known as statistical. Okay. A researcher selects only 10 members as a sample from the total population of 5,000 and consider it good because, that is, the population was homogeneous. So a researcher will select only the 10 members as a sample for the from the total population of 5,000. It is, and that he considers it is a good, okay, it good because the population was homogeneous. Which technique is generally followed when the population is finite? So systematic sampling. So when it is the population is for example 5,000, you can see it is a finite. In that condition, we need to use a technique is systematic sampling technique. He research antagonistic antagonistic to exposed factor research is experimental studies. Exposed factor research is a experimental studies. Experimental studies, you remember, ex post facto research. Experimental study is based on the law of single variable. Experimental study is based on the law of single variable. A statistical measure based upon the entire population is called parameter, while measure based upon a sample is known as statistic. So a statistical measure based upon the entire population is called parameter, and measure based upon a sample is called statistic. The final result of a study will be more accurate if the sample drawn is representative to the population. Which of the following is a non-probability sample? So here A and C, that is A is quota sample and C is a purposive sample. So these two samples are the non-probability sample. Independent variables are not manipulated in both of the above, that is normative research and ex post facto research. The process not intended, the process not needed in experimental research is which is not required, observation is required, controlling is required, manipulation and replication is required. Which is not required, reference collection is not required, not needed in a experimental research. This is a heading only, is there experimental research. In that, observation required, controlling, manipulation and replication is required. A teacher encounters various problems during his professional experience. He should he should do research on that problem and find a solution. So, a teacher encounters various problems during his professional experience. He should do research on that problem and find a solution for that. A research a researcher selects a probability sample of 100 out of total population. It is a random sample. Area sampling technique is used when A and C, that is population is scattered and large size of the sample is to be drawn, population is heterogeneous. Validity of a research can be improved by C, that is both of the above measures. Validity of a research can be improved by eliminating extraneous factors and taking the true representative sample of the population. Who is regarded the father of scientific social survey? That is B. Booth. Booth is the father of scientific social survey. All are examples of qualitative variables except, that is, the interest of the subject. Next is a formulation of hypothesis may not be necessary in fact finding. Formulation of hypothesis may not be necessary in fact finding studies. Logic of induction is very close to the logic of sampling. The probability of a head and a tail of tossing four coins simultaneously, it is the answer is 1 by 16. While writing research report, a researcher must not use numerical figures in numbers in the beginning of sentence, must arrange it in a logical, topical, and chronological order, must compare his results with those of the other studies. Answer D. The per capita income of India from 1950 to 1990 is 4 times. This study is longitudinal study. If you are doing experiment on a large group of sample, which method of controlling will you adopt? So there is a randomization method. A good hypothesis should be precise, specified, and consistent with most known facts, formulated in such a way that it can be tested by the data of limited scope and should not have global significance. All causes non-sampling errors except inadequate sample. So in next class we shall discuss with the other questions. We shall end here. Subscribe channel for more updates.